Welcome to the Dope Dad Podcast. This is an unscripted journey for those who are invested in parenting. There's no judgment, there's no BS, just honest conversation about what it really means to be a dad today. It's raw, it's real, and it's unapologetically dope. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. You are tuned into another episode of the Dope Dad Podcast. You already know if you've been watching, we're out here in Mesa, Arizona. Shout out Podwork Studios, my producer, Bill. Appreciate you, brother. Today's outstanding, man. I've got another dope dad on the show with me. Really excited about this because this is going to tap into something that a lot of us dads have gone through, or parents in general, specifically with this parenting style right here. We're talking dads, and I got my good friend. I've worked with him. We've known each other for many moons. He's out here from Traverse City, Michigan. Been in the zone for a long time, man. I want to introduce my good friend, Josh Conover. What's up, brother?
How you doing?
Always well, man.
Happy to be here.
Man? Thanks, dude. Appreciate you coming on the show, man. It's a long time coming, dude. So we did many years work together. We worked together when you had your first child.
Yeah, and before.
So I've kind of like watched the progression of your, early parenting, and now your daughter Macy is 4 years old, man.
Yeah, a little over 4 now.
Which is a huge deal. I'm sure you've seen all sorts of crazy roller coaster rides.
Yeah, it's been wild. Yeah, our stories are a little different because I waited a long time before I had my first, and number 2 on the way, a couple of days here now.
Okay, talk about that.
Dude, it's wild because when I found out my wife was pregnant again, I almost resented the fact that she had another baby in her belly. And I hate using those words, but I mean, I was there during COVID. I had my mask on. I cut the umbilical cord, and I saw my baby being born, and I was just instantly bawling.
Oh yeah.
And it changed my life. And then when she said she's pregnant again, even though we were trying, and we nailed it in like 5 shifts.
Hey, right? Yeah, champ. There you go.
She goes, "I'm pregnant again," and I'm like, "Oh, all right. Now what?" And I was like, as it became real, and we had experienced loss, so we're trying not to like get our hopes up and stuff like that. And we find out, all right, we hear a heartbeat now, and it's getting real, and she starts to show finally because she's little and she didn't show for months. And I'm like, okay, we're definitely having another baby. So we start to tell everyone, and now I'm like, how am I going to love this baby as much as I love Macy? And I mean, even still now, like we're going to have her in maybe a week, maybe 3 weeks, who knows? And it's just not quite real yet.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll change as soon as I see the baby, just like Macy.
Yeah, see her and hold her, man.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. I think, I had originally touched in, on that kind of maybe in another podcast, but it's tough for the dude, I think, to really to connect with the child, like right out the gates, because they're so like mother attached, right? Like, there's the voice of the mother, there's the warmth of the mother, there's the comfort. Like they connect long before us, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's breastfeeding, right? And there's something very, I think, like intimate about, like while the woman is breastfeeding, the child's sitting there staring at them, and they're staring at them. Like there's this like deep, like connection emotionally as they stare into each other's eyes, and they're nurturing and feeding, and the guy's just kind of like, fucking do you need anything?
Everything good over there?
Yeah. You need a blanket? Are you hungry? Yeah. So it's really tough, man. And aside from burping and maybe like rocking them to sleep and singing some songs and stuff, like in my experience, it was really tough for me to feel as connected as my wife felt. And so I think that's probably natural. It was natural in my experience to feel afraid and feel not as like connected. And now that you and your daughter have 4 years under your belt.
Yeah.
Like you guys kick it, right? Like you guys have a routine, like you guys have things that you do.
Yeah. And I'm certainly not the default parent, and I'm okay with that because I'm at work a lot more, and I want her to be able to spend that time with mommy. And she still says mommy and daddy, and it still like breaks my heart, like I just cry now. I'll be holding her and I'll just cry. But yeah, I mean, Leah did the whole breastfeeding thing for a solid 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's great. And not everybody can actually do that. Sometimes, it's a struggle.
Yeah, it's true. We didn't have that experience.
Yeah. And so I was like, I was rooting Leah on, and then she would pump, and then we would take shifts. So at night, you're talking about the eye contact. I would literally just put her little butt in my hand and feed her, 10 milliliters of breast milk, and she'd just stare up at me, and I'd just be like looking at her like, why are you looking at me like that? Like,
are we cool?
Like just like dripping tears on her, and feeding her. And then, at some point in time, she's done with the bottle, and you don't realize you've given her her last bottle.
Bro, that's
and
deep.
That
that's
shit,
real.
I had to like leave the room.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I got to go to the bathroom, and just
sob,
take a shower and bawl. It's just weird. It's weird to feel like, so weak, so.
Vulnerable, man. It's vulnerable. Like children bring out the best in us, man, and bring out an emotional vulnerability that like a lot of us don't really ever experience, because loving
100%.
someone so unconditionally makes you feel so just you're open, bro. Like whatever you do, I'm taking it on, right? Like I'm accepting all of this love. And I think that's pretty rare for a dude to put himself in that position to to be so vulnerable and to be judged and, to potentially be hurt or to experience happiness of that magnitude is very rare.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that about giving her the last bottle, bro, because somebody told me like years and years ago, at some point you put your daughter down and you never pick her back up. Right?
Yeah.
Or your son for that matter. I've got daughters, you got daughters. So daughter in this element and fucking A, that is true, man, because I don't remember when it was.
Really?
I don't remember.
Even with the youngest?
Dude, Krish is 11, man, and she's almost as tall as me, bro. I'm like an easy target. I'm like 5'5", but I don't remember the last time I had to, let me rephrase that, the last time I got to hold my child like that. You know what I mean? Probably at a Disneyland or something like that, but that was years ago, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate. My last time was hours ago because she was up all night.
Yeah, bro.
But I'll carry her up the stairs, and it's like, just walking up the stairs and just, feeling her little back and like, her little hand. I mean, her arm is still so little at 4, that her arm comes around and she's like playing with my earlobes, and I'm just like, man, she feels so small right now, but we're going to have a baby in a couple of weeks and then she's going to be giant.
Yeah.
All of a sudden she's just going to be the big girl. And I'm hoping, she's an awesome big sister. I'm hoping she's a helper. I'm hoping that she wants to, be involved. And, Leah and I are already talking about ways to keep her involved and like make sure that she doesn't feel like she's irrelevant now or she's unimportant because we're focusing on the baby. And it's, I'm sure it's going to be a balance. But
does she appear to be like grasping the concept of being a big sister? She like touching the belly and baby and all that stuff?
She does. She gives Leah kisses on the belly and she says, "Good night, Delaney," and and we've come up with a name. Yeah. So, and Leah can't hold her the same anymore because she's just huge right now. And so last night Leah put Macy down and it was like 10 o'clock. It was pretty late, but she couldn't. That was the first time that she had actually held her in a long time, and she fell asleep on her. And so she put her in her bed, and everything for Leah right now is difficult because she's just 5'1", and she's got this huge belly all of a sudden, which she didn't. When she was full term with Macy, you couldn't even tell she was pregnant from the back.
Yeah.
And actually now, like you can't really tell she's pregnant from the back, but when she turns sideways, you're like, oh. You are so much more pregnant than
you are with child.
Macy. Yeah, and so everything is just difficult for her, but she got to put Macy down and Macy, fell asleep on her for the first time in a long time and it's like, yeah, that's my favorite thing, and it's just weird to think that that's going to be something where she's just like, okay, I'll go to bed by myself soon. I'm like, not ready for that.
Now that my kids are as old as they are, I saw like a little funny meme that was like, what time do your kids go to bed? Like, how the fuck should I know? They tuck me in about 9 and go on about their business. And that's pretty true. Like there's been a couple times when our youngest will come in. She's like, "Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad." And I'm like, I'm like, turn off the light when you go out, please. I'm like, have sweet dreams, But they start to become self-sufficient. It's interesting. I think about like milestone markers for me, things that like really like exposed raw emotion for me, and I don't know why. But I think the most impactful, it wasn't riding a bike. It wasn't even driving a car. The most important mile marker for me for some reason, is when my kid was able to eat cereal with a spoon by themselves.
Oh, dang.
Because, dude, like at that point, they eat with their fingers a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They, you know, it's chicken strips, it's fries. You know, yeah, it's like loading stuff up, and even a fork. You know, you can like poke something, but there was something about the symbology of like a child being able to use a spoon and balance and understanding, like, you know, just like the
overall mechanics.
Yeah, the dexterity like required, you know, and I'm like, man, this is like, I remember watching, you know, my kids eat cereal for the first time, and I'm just like, you know, like tears just like coming down, not really like weeping and shit, but just like, man, this is crazy, because it's true, man. Like once children hit certain mile markers, they don't really go back. You know what I mean? That's like, it's just onward and upward for them. And so I remember that vividly being like one of the most impactful signs of a child growing and the independence, because now, like, you don't need me to feed you anymore. Like, damn.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's funny you say milestones too, because it's when Macy was born, you know, we kept looking forward, like, oh, I can't wait till she can like hold her head up, you know. I can't wait until she can like sit, you know, by herself, and you can just set her down. And it's like, it's almost like you're waiting for the next big thing to happen, but you're not fully enjoying, you know, how you can just set them down, and how cute they are, and how they have that little scrunch when you pick them up and they keep their legs up, you know?
Yeah.
And you're just waiting for the next big thing, and then all of a sudden you realize, you know, she doesn't say pink anymore. When she's trying to say pink, she says pink. And you're like, oh yeah, that's how you say that word.
Totally.
You know, and I miss her saying pink. What's your favorite color, Macy? Pink. You know, and it's like, now she just says words properly. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just, you're always waiting for the next big thing, and then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh.
Missed that.
Yeah, I miss how she used to do things.
It's interesting, man. I mean, thankfully we have, you know, cameras and, you know, video recorders on our phones, on our person all the time, because we were able to capture so many cool things. Dude, there's times where I'm like, I'll scroll through my phone and I'm like, yo, everybody come in the room, and we'll like, you know, do the AirPlay like up onto the TV, and we'll just all sit on the bed and just like geek out and watch like crazy videos, and we're like, oh my God, that was crazy. And it always ends up in tears. It always ends up in like this emotional, you know, like everybody's like, oh my God. And we realize how blessed we were, you know what I mean? And still are. But it's crazy because it just stops one day, and there's never really like you never really realize, oh, that's not happening any longer.
I know, it's weird because you don't want them to have the technology right away, but then you're happy that you have the technology so you can look back. Because I mean, you know, you think about like childhood pictures of yourself, right? You have your school pictures maybe, or if you were lucky enough to keep your yearbooks or whatever, and you know, every once in a while you see like a cool picture. But I mean, I think I doubled 20,000 photos in my phone, you know, in the first 6 months that Macy was born.
Totally.
You know, and it's like, and I don't know about with your little ones, but Macy has always been very aware of the camera lens, and it's almost like, oh, I don't want to.
Photogenic?
Yeah, I don't, not even that. She's just like, she'll change her demeanor, you know, she'll be like saying something cute, and I'll try and film it, and she'll be like, why are you filming me? You know, from a very early age, she's just been aware of that lens.
Interesting.
And, you know, we never had a lens in our face, you know. No.
You heard the winding click?
Yeah,
the winding click on, you know, click on the Kodak, and you're just like, oh, everybody pose quick.
Yeah.
And then you wait a couple weeks and see if it turned out okay.
Yeah, you had to develop it and then go pick it up and pick up like 5 packs at a time and see if anything turned out good.
Yeah, I recall. So with Macy kind of getting prepped to be a big sister, man, like you guys going to be sharing room, sharing space, or how's that gonna work for you guys, man?
So we are very fortunate. Like, I don't want to sound braggy, but we're very fortunate to have quite a bit of space in our house.
Okay, dope.
And so Macy has her room above our room. The second floor is just 3 bedrooms, and the master's on the first floor. So Macy's right above us. Then we have a guest room. And then after our roommate moved out, after Macy was born, I moved all my drums in there. I was like, yeah, I'm going to have a drum room. I'm going to have like my own space.
Or another kid.
Dope, yeah. And then we hire a contractor to come out and give us a quote to turn the loft into a 5th bedroom. And he's like, yeah, it's going to be like, 10 G's. And we're like, oh, cool. So I'll just move my drums back out into the loft, and we'll turn my drum room back into a bedroom since it's already got the closet and the door. And, so over the past couple of months, moved all my drums back out into the loft where they were, but we're still going to build a wall in the loft and separate my drums. But we've already made this fourth bedroom a baby room. So I'm hoping at some point in time they want to share a room and we can kind of make like a little playroom to contain all their toys.
Yeah, it'd be cool, man. I think when we had our kiddos, dude, we had all three. So Carradine had to have been 5, I guess, maybe 6. And they were all 3 sharing a room. So it was like all 5 of us in a 2-bedroom, before we ended up getting into this new house, man. And so that was like, Krisha was in our room with us, and G and Carradine shared a room. Okay. And as soon as she was ready to go there, we're like, bro, we have to have more space, man. It was just a lot.
How long was she in the room with you?
I want to say probably like 6 months or something like that.
I feel like that's pretty standard, right? Like we're just assuming,
bro. Yeah, like
we're assuming Delaney's going to be in our room with us for another 6 months, like Casey was.
Yeah.
So
that's one thing too, I guess, about dads, and maybe it's just like me. I feel kind of guilty because people are like, yo, about what age did this happen? I'm like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not too sure. I don't know. I don't even know what's normal. I don't know like when it happened for me. I remember like the kids started walking around a year. Yeah. And my second and third child ended up walking around like a year and a couple months because everybody was like picking them up and stuff, So,
oh yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was wild. So we like definitely were more like baby when it came to the second and third, because you're trying to like embrace that, that infancy. Yeah. And so I think because we were always picking them up, they're just like, and you're just like, all right, dude, like, let's go over there, But it definitely like prohibited them from advancing as quickly when it came to walking. But I don't know, man, I never pay attention to that shit anyways. You go to like a OBGYN or like whatever your doctors are after that, and they're like, oh, they're in the, 90th percentile for like height and weight and, this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, yo, those stats don't really mean shit to me. Like, we're all short. My kids are going to be short. Yeah. You know what I mean? But unless there's something going on, like, I don't want to like subconsciously like compare my children to other children. I feel like that's like unhealthy because you get like wrapped up in all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we decided very early on not to compare to like other people's kids and stuff like that because, then you're just going to think your kid's either like super smart and they're not, or they're dumb and they're definitely not.
Yeah, of course. So. Yeah, that's the thing too, man. Is that like kids are like adults, man. They figure shit out at their own pace. All adults are different. All kids are different. You know what I mean? Like, she's walking a little bit early. Awesome. She must really want to get somewhere. She's walking a little bit late. Awesome. She must not really want to get there that bad.
She was a little cautious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we look back at Macy's first birthday, and Leah will say, yeah, she wasn't even walking then. I'm like, wow, really? She wasn't? I was like, yeah, I guess she was well over 1, But I feel like Macy's always just been really cautious, which is good because we have some stairs, man.
I was thinking about those. They turn too, huh?
No, they come straight down is the thing that I don't like about them. And there's 17 of them. I mean, it's, they go way up. And, she's at this age now where she actually stayed in her crib so long. Just this Christmas, we got her a little princess bed, a Disney bed, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of her gifts from Santa this year. Not me. It's from Santa.
Thank you, Santa.
Yeah. So now she just gets out of bed and comes downstairs. So, last night she's up 3 times. I'm like, all right, let's go back upstairs and put her to bed. And this whole time I'm thinking like, man, I hope she doesn't just tumble down these stairs. We don't even hear it because we got the fan going, the white noise. She just cracks her head open on the tile. I'm like, that's like my biggest nightmare right now is these stairs.
Yeah. I mean, dude.
For a while it was choking. Still choking, but now it's stairs.
Well, dude, I mean, I hate to tell you, bro, but at some point it's going to happen, right? Like, yo, I got a stitch. I don't even know which side. I have a stitch right here. That's a coffee table.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have like the bike scars or the coffee table scars or, the racquetball or tennis racket scars.
Yeah,
like,
I took a tooth through the bottom of my lip.
Yeah, we all got something, you know what I mean? And it's like I've definitely talked about that and tapped in on that, man. Like, hopefully you can mitigate the amount of damage it's done, but you can't save them from everything, bro. And honestly, that's kind of how you learn too. Like, I can't tell you how many trampoline accidents I've seen or been a part of,
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cool watching the progression of the young child, and it's awesome being able to go back to your wife about to have a second child. I want to tap in on like 2 of the things that you said. So I remember I was looking through my phone recently, dude, like within a week, and I saw a picture of my wife pregnant the day that Krisha was born. So it was like a 1:30 in the morning photo.
Yeah.
And she was born at like 7 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And it was like when she's like, hey, we're going to the hospital. I'm having this baby. And I'm, it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, oh, God. And she's like, get up. I'm like, yep, got the bag, got everything. Like, here we go. And so I took like a couple photos of her. I don't know how she agreed to it, because she was like really self-conscious and stuff, but I took a couple photos and so I was like, I sent it to her and we reflect on that, and she's like, God, I was so ugly, or, I was so big. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, there's nothing more beautiful, literally fucking nothing more beautiful than my queen pregnant with my child. Like, I can't think of something that would define beauty more than the woman that I love about to give birth to our child. Like, like that is true beauty, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's unexplainable, but it's crazy how self-conscious she felt, but she does admit she loved being pregnant, the feeling of being pregnant and being with a child. Like, she was all about it, man. I think there's like an element of importance. Like, we as people want to feel needed, and there was such pride in that. And I think that's too, like when a kid starts being independent and they start to need you less and less, you start to need them more and more, right? Because we want to be needed. I'm like, I want you to do shit on your own, but I also I kind of want to be the hero. Like, I kind of want you to tell me, hey, Dad, I don't know how to do this. So I can say, let me show you. Let me help you learn that.
Do you think Carradin's going to go to college out of state? Do you think she's going to go to college? I mean, are you afraid of her leaving? Like,
yeah, we've talked about it. She definitely wants to she wants to get out of town. She wants to go to Florida really, really bad.
Really?
Because she's had great experiences like on the coast of Florida. In all fairness, she hasn't even gone inland to Florida. So I think that might change if she starts like mobbing around the state, and in the humidity and just the change. And I don't know, man. I think about it a lot. It terrifies me to think about my children leaving. But in the last couple of years, I've really been trying to focus on investing back into my marriage, because I want, Marcia and I to get closer and make sure that like we're continuing to strengthen that bond, because at some point all of the girls will be gone, regardless if it's college or marriage and they're off doing their thing. And I don't want to be the person that like, the kids are gone and then I look at my wife and I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
What do we do now?
Do we still need to do this?
Yeah. And so I don't want to be I don't want to be lost without my children, right? Yeah. Like, my children give me purpose, but I don't want them to be my only purpose. You know what I mean? Like, I still want to have that connection with my wife. And it's funny, like a lot of the older people that I have, heard talk about marriage are like, never stop dating, never stop dating, never stop dating. And what that means to me, like originally I thought it just meant like, continue to spend time and stuff. Yeah. But I think in the last year I had an epiphany. And what it means to me now is that we change, bro. Like, I'm not the same person that she married. Right. And she's not the same person that I married, right? Like, we've been married almost 20 years, right? So we have grown, we have changed, we have evolved, we have different goals, we have different desires, wants, needs, like all that shit has changed, but we changed together yet independently. And so now if somebody was like, hey, what's your wife's favorite color? I would just like revert back to what her answer always was. Oh, yeah. It's black. But I haven't asked her that in forever. I don't know what the fuck her favorite color is. What if she's like, I've really been feeling blue lately. I'm like, what are you listening to in the car? I know what her favorite band is, but I don't even think she listens to that music anymore. And so what I think keep dating means, my interpretation of keep dating, is to continue to learn your partner and continue to invest in who they're becoming and listen. Because I think it's important. We just assume that we know the person that we live with and share our lives with and love. But the fact of the matter is, if we're not asking questions, if we're not actively like listening and tapping into who they are and who they're becoming, then we don't fucking know. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so lately for me, like Marcia and I, we had a tough bout, bro. Like, we almost called it quits a couple times. Like, life is tough, bro. And it's easy to say this isn't working out and I'm done. And I'm so grateful, bro, that we like keep fighting for each other. You know what I mean? Not just to provide that security for our kids, which is super important, but because we want to fight for each other and for happiness and for love. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's really important, bro. It's super impactful for us to be able to see the other person commit to saying, hey, I don't want to give up on this. Like, I want to keep working for this. Yeah. So
it's weird to think about too, because, Leah and I are all in. I mean, we're all about it. And, I couldn't even imagine my life without her, right? And I'm hopeful. I'm fairly sure she feels the same way, right? But it's like, you know, I grew up with just my mom. Like, I didn't meet my dad until I flew out to Phoenix from Michigan when I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and it's weird to think about, even still, as Macy's 4 years old, if I hadn't met her for if I don't meet her for another 2 years, she's 6. I mean, just how much she's developed in the first 4 years and how things have changed. And, you know, I think about like how, and I get it. My parents were real young when I was born, which is, I want to say 95%.
That's why you waited until you're 40?
That I was, almost 40 by the time Macy was born. But it's like, I think about how he could miss out on those first 6 years. You know, how did that not kill him? You know what I mean?
Probably did.
You know, but I don't know. You know, I don't know sometimes. It's weird because I know your parents were split as well.
Yeah, yep.
So it's weird you don't have anything to look back on to, you know, experiences that are similar because, you know, we're raising Macy and we take turns. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like if Macy gets a little out of control and I'm like up to here, I'm like, babe, I got to tap out. And she does the same thing. If she gets real frustrated, she's like, you need to go take care of this girl. I need to step outside for a minute.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, you got it. I'll go, you know, see what's up.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's as simple as my mom taught me this, is just like picking her up and just taking her out of the house, you know, so that her focus is elsewhere. It's just a different scene around her. And then she can calm down and breathe a little bit. But it's like my mom never had anybody that she could just tap out, you know, so she had to do it herself. And I think about how rough it must have been for her being 18, you know, and I mean, even when my stepdad came into the picture, like, you know, he wasn't my dad, you know, he was Marshall's dad, and then later on the twins' dad. And so it's like even then she wasn't like, yo, I need you to talk to Josh. You know,
right. She took that on
she's
herself.
Like, do you realize how pissed Scott would be if he, you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, you know. I was more scared of her than I was of him.
I think step parenting in general, man, must be very, very challenging.
I can't even imagine.
As a grown up now, looking at, you know, inheriting the responsibility and the partnership with somebody who already has, you know, a child must be terrifying. To try to like earn that child's like love and respect, you know, and as a parent, somebody else attempting to parent your child must be really, really hard for you to accept or maybe take a backseat or. Yeah. You know, if they parent your child, you know, inappropriately or cross a boundary, you know, like how do you do that? How do you approach that lovingly and respectfully and say, hey, this is something that I'm uncomfortable with? Like, I'm sure it's hard as shit, you know, for both the parents. And here I am, you know, like I'm thinking about it from a parental standpoint instead of a kid standpoint because I'm a parent now and I'm no longer a kid. But I know kids who had step parents, you know, and they were like, man, fuck those guys. You know, they were like, they did, you know, no respect for their parents because it was like this rebellious, you know, you're not my mom, you're not my dad or whatever. And kids are hurtful, like because they'll say things to try to, you know, offend the step parent and say, you know, hurtful things to try to prove that, you know, you're not my dad, you're not my mom. It's tough, man. But to circle all the way back about a second child, you and I were talking, you know, obviously earlier in the vehicle and stuff on the way here. But my experience with our second child was pretty similar, man. And I would venture to say that there's probably a lot of people out there that maybe felt the same way, maybe even, you know, women that are carrying the child. I couldn't speak to that. But my experience was that, you know, my wife got our second baby. We were pregnant. And God, that was hard to say. I don't know why. But she got pregnant with our second child, and we were excited. But the whole time, like in the back of my mind, there was something there. It was like glooming, right? Yeah. And I was like, fuck, I felt something, and I didn't know what it was. But I did. It was guilt. It was guilt and fear. Yeah. Because I felt guilty because the way that I had already connected with my oldest daughter, where we were two peas in a pod. You know, my wife had already like gone back to work. So she stayed home, I think for like the first 2 years, but you know, my daughter and I were able to spend like a lot of time together and really like bond and connect. And I knew how I felt about her. And we had this like really cool connection. And the whole time I'm like, man, there's no way. It's not possible that another kid is going to come into my life and I'm going to love this kid the way that I love this kid. Like it's already unfair. Yeah. Like this kid has stolen my heart. There's no way. And so I never discussed it with my wife. It was kind of embarrassing, right? Like I felt, I don't know, like, I don't want to say like humiliated, but I felt like really, I was embarrassed, man. I felt guilty. I felt ashamed that I was like having these feelings.
Guilty is a good word. Yeah.
And yeah, as it continued to get closer, like I didn't feel that feeling going away. If anything, it was kind of like magnified. It was heavier and heavier on my shoulders. And I'm like, fuck, now the moment of truth, right? Like now, as soon as this baby's here, I'm going to have to throw on this excited face. Even if I don't feel as connected with this child as I do with my daughter that I already have here. And bro, I wrestled with that a lot, It was really, really tough. Around that time too, I actually went sober. So I was dealing with a lot of emotions and stuff with a mind state that I hadn't really experienced before. And so I'm wrestling with all of these emotions and these feelings, and we get closer and closer, and finally, like, bro, it's time, due date's here, and we go to the hospital, and dude, I watched all my kids be born. It was, dude,
good.
To witness a miracle like that, bro, is life-changing.
100.
And I think a lot of people will be like, oh, dude, don't watch that. Like, you'll never look at it the same again. I'm like, bro, shut that shit up, man. Like, watching a child be born is the most magical shit and probably the closest you'll get to heaven while you're on earth. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So we do that thing, man. And she delivers this baby, right? And the nurses come through and they like clear the passageway, you hear the scream. They kind of like wrap up in the blanket, cut the umbilical cord, and they like hand me my daughter. And as soon as I like embrace her, bro, waterworks. It just like uncontrollable emotion. Like I'm sobbing, bro. Like making the noises and the sniffles and the jaw chatter. You're like, oh. Yeah. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, that's how you love this child as much as you love the other one. Yeah. Your heart fucking gets bigger. It like doubled in size and immediately made room for this. Dude, for my baby girl G to come here, bro, and be in my arms was angelic, dog. There was nothing that was like as badass as that, bro. And I just sat there and I held her, and it was like this epiphany, it just overwhelmed me. I was like, nature takes its course, right? Like I am a father, and this is my child, and I fucking love this baby more than anything, dude. Like, there was nothing that I had to do, bro. It happened naturally. Yeah. And so I think the fear of a competitive love for one child versus another is probably a natural fear. I mean, it was for me, and embarrassing, and I kept it secretive from my wife, because I didn't want to alarm her or make her feel that I was insecure with, the pregnancy or what was about to happen or the expansion of our family. I wanted to provide security for her. But on the back end, bro, I was freaking out,
Yeah. And I'm bad at keeping secrets, and I tell Leah just like right away. I mean, we were, as soon as we heard the heartbeat finally for that first time, which is something we didn't really get to experience when we lost our first, we were like, okay, this is real. But I instantly thought of Macy. And like I said earlier, I felt resentment, but guilt is the real like overbearing feeling that I felt because I felt resentment, like how are we going to bring this other life to take away any focus from this little one that, but it's also like, you have no idea how you're going to feel when you have your first until it happens. And then you're like, okay, now I fucking get it, And then I think it's just not comparable when you have the second one. It's going to happen again. And I know, and I'm counting on it. But it's like, I didn't have Macy and experience that love already. Yeah. So it's almost like I just don't know how to cope, I'm just...
Yeah, it's impossible to think you can duplicate it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm so excited, and we're so prepared this time, right? We've got our new rocker, we've got the snooze set up, we've got a table, we've got a changing table, because Leah brought up the fact that for the first couple of months, we were setting up like a diaper bag, pad on the bed and just kneeling down and changing her. I was like, man, we just did everything the hard way.
Yeah.
And it took us, weeks and sometimes months to figure out the new way to do things. And I feel like we're so much more prepared this time. We haven't painted a room. There's a little bit of guilt in that, like, this one's not as special or something like that, I'm ready and she's ready, and I know that having another daughter is going to change my life again.
Girl dad, bro.
Girl dad, yeah.
You ever think about having a son? What it would be like having a son? Is that a wish or a desire of yours?
No, we're done now. We're done. I'm gonna be
You doing a vasectomy?
I don't know about that, but yeah,
I did it.
I'm gonna. I know.
It's funny, man. Like I remember talking to my dad and like a bunch of other dads, and they're like, "Oh, you go for your lunch break, you get a vasectomy, and you're back to work after that."
Nah.
Maybe I just have a low pain tolerance, or I'm a bitch or something. But I did that, and I was like, fuck no. I'm taking multiple days off work, bro. This was awful.
Yeah. I feel like some dudes maybe just don't have the same sensitivity or some shit, because I mean, you can drop me to my knees with a little flick.
Yeah.
And it's, I can't imagine, getting all my shit cut up and then snipped
the incision's not bad. It's a little uncomfortable, but also like, I think the most traumatizing part is that you get to smell your testicles being cauterized. Right? Like, is there anything more haunting, man? Can you think of a scenario where you're more uncomfortable? Like, yo, what does that smell? He's like, oh yeah, it's your ball bag.
Yeah. No, we're just snipping these tubes here and cauterizing everything, and yeah, you're good to go.
Well, all said and done, once they modified my coin purse, and I was no longer able to have kiddos. A couple years later, my wife's little sister got pregnant with a little girl. And dude, we both got baby fever, bro. Like we both got it. And we were both really, really excited about babies and what it would be like to have another baby. And so we even opened up dialogue, bro, like after it had happened about like, yo,
reversing the
maybe we should reverse this. And so I think I looked into it at the time, and it was like maybe like 18 grand or something like that. Damn. So to get it done was like $500 because insurance was like, oh, you don't want kids anymore and we don't have to pay for childbirth and all that shit. Like, yo, we'll pay, $4,500, you pay $500 and we're good to go.
Damn.
And so we jumped on that, which was a crazy experience too, because we both had to be there. She had to like sign that because we were married that she knew that I was having a vasectomy, and I couldn't like do it behind her back or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So it was a really interesting dynamic. As I recall, we both had to be there. We had to sign paperwork that we knew that this could potentially mean that we could no longer bear children and yada, yada, yada. And there was a chance that it wouldn't work, whatever. Anyways, we both got baby fever. I looked, it was like 18 grand. And I'm like, 3's our number. We're not paying that.
Yeah.
Like, can't afford that, bro.
Like prepaying.
Yeah. Pay 18 grand to then spend multiple hundreds of thousands later on through life.
Yeah. And maybe not even have another one. So
the thing is, man, like I love big families, bro. Like the kiddos, man, and I can't wait for them to have kids and to be a grandparent. And I want a big family. You know what I'm saying? Like the love, man, the energy, the connection, man. I don't know, that like it gets me, bro. Like I think as I get older, I'm realizing, fuck, like all we got is each other, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I look forward to being a grandparent later on when the time's appropriate. I don't want that to happen too early, but.
Well, I mean, I have 5 brothers. 2 of them are out here and 3 back in Michigan. And 1 back in Michigan is married. The 2 out here are married. And, 5 brothers, and we're all having girls.
Damn.
So
that's how it happens, huh?
Yeah. So my youngest brother, he got married last year or the year before, last year. And he has a stepdaughter, and she's wonderful. And they found out that they were pregnant about a month after we found out we were pregnant. So she's due, I think, in mid-April. Mm-hmm. And they're having a girl. And then my brother Jake, who's out here as well, he had a girl about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And when we found out that Mickey was having a girl, we're like, okay, Jake, it's back on you. Like, you got to have a boy.
Ball's in your court, bro.
Carry on this Conover name, because we're all just having girls here. And I don't know. It's wild.
Did they find out gender?
Yeah. They're having a girl.
Huh.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, so he has a stepdaughter, and he'll have another little girl. Her name's going to be Brooklyn.
That's what's up.
And then we already have Rory, who just turned 2 last month or the month before. But
I remember
it's all girls.
I remember having a bunch of cousins around my age, like my dad and his brothers and sisters all had kids. We were all kind of like the same age. None of us really grew up, together per se. And as we're older, like contact of, with each other is kind of like dissipated. It's like much more, sparse, and just we're not connected the way that we should have been, but that's what I hope. My kids and my wife's sisters, boys and girls, they're all like, they're close, man. As much as possible, we try to get them together and spend, time together, not just on like holidays or birthdays and stuff, but like, hey, what are you guys doing this weekend? Let's go to Top Golf, or like, just, go out to the desert or something like that. Let the kids play around water parks and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think it's important to have that family energy, and maybe that's why I want like a big family too. You know what I mean? Like, I want people to kind of like dive into that and embrace it. I know it's super important to my dad, bro. Like, super important that like, we all connect as a family. The thing is, like, not all family loves each other, bro. It ain't like that for some family members.
Yeah.
So,
and also it depends on, for me, my brothers that are out here, they grew up so different than, me and my brothers back in Michigan, I mean, I was 8 years old when Marshall was born and 12 when the twins were born. And Jake and Mickey came like right after Marshall, and then Mickey came right after the twins. And I come out here, and where I grew up, you hang up the phone, you're like, all right, drive safe, I love you, goodbye. And I come out here, and my little brother's like, okay, fine. And then hangs up his phone, and I'm like, who are you talking to just now? He's like, my mom. I'm like, dog, you didn't even say goodbye to her. Like, how did you hang up without saying like I love you and goodbye? Mm-hmm. Like, at the very least, goodbye.
Yeah,
like,
common courtesies.
Like, what is going on? It's such a different, balance. Like I said, my dad, he had other plans. He waited a lot longer to have his actual family and kids. So it's like, and I'm not trying to put him on blast, and I realize he might eventually possibly see this.
He might be hearing this, bro. You better look into the camera.
No, yeah. But, it's like I feel a little heartbroken that he doesn't want to be around Macy, because I've heard him say things like, she's so young, she's not going to remember any of this, It's like, no, she will.
Yeah.
Like, she's 4, right? And she's to the age where, and I've had this conversation with Leah, it's like, we always talk about them when they're sitting right there, but she's at the age where it's like, she's listening to us talk about her now. And it's like, hey, I don't want to talk about her while in front of her, Just last night, Leah was saying, yeah, I was trying to wipe her nose, and she was this, and Macy's like looking over at me, and then looks back at, Leah, and I'm like, she's right next to you, like, don't talk about her like she's not here. Yeah. She can hear you, she can hear us. And it's just, they remember. And it's like I said, we didn't really meet each other until I was 6. And so like 2 years from now, I can't even imagine where Macy's going to be.
That's a lot. She's lot of memories.
Yeah.
That's a lot of memories.
Yeah. And I mean, and Macy, she remembers crazy shit. Like, she just tied a knot in a bow around her bed. And Leah goes, did you teach her how to tie a bow? And I was like, I didn't teach her shit. I don't even know how to tie a bow like that,
Yeah.
And she's like, I mean, I think I showed her how to tie a ribbon, one time like 8 months ago, but I haven't shown her since. And she's just, tying little knots around her new princess bed. I was like, oh, she remembers shit.
That's dope.
Every time we leave her dad's house, my father-in-law, she says, do you remember when you had my toilet in the back seat and you would turn the corner and it would flush and you'd say, what the heck? And I was like, yeah, you were like 1.5 when you were potty training. I remember that, 2.5 years ago. Like, how do you remember that?
They absolutely remember it. There's almost nothing that my children don't remember about their childhood. There's a lot that I maybe don't remember, or that my wife, doesn't recall. And we might, my wife and I might not recall them happening the same way that the girls do, but the girls are always consistent. They're always on the same page too. I'm like, damn, Yeah. But the one that like is really fucked up is that my youngest daughter said that we were eating lasagna, and that she plated lasagna, and she she was a kid, man. She dropped her lasagna, which historically, like, I probably would have got fired up about and been like, yo, what are you doing? Like, be more careful or something like that. Like, I'm evolving and changing and being more patient and empathetic. But I was a firecracker, and like, dude, I got a lot of really embarrassing things that I did, ways that I responded to situations, that I can't change, but I can do better, right? Like, I can be a better dad. I can learn from my mistakes. I can change now. Yeah. And I can show them through my actions that I want to be a better person, right? Like, another conversation, but allegedly, as legend goes, for the girls, is that she dropped her lasagna and I got upset and I threw the lasagna away and I made her sit at the table and watch the rest of us eat. Which I'm not buying, bro. Like, I would never fucking do that. That's like the most horrific asshole shit you could do. Like, I could never imagine like torturing my child and making them watch the rest of us eat.
But that's how they.
But that's how she remembers it, right? Like, so regardless what actually happened, and I don't really remember that, bro. Like, they were kids. They spilled and dropped shit all the time. You know what I mean?
That's her reality.
But that's how she recalls that situation, and I don't dispute it. I don't try to like defend myself and say that never happened. Instead, I just say, man, that sounds awful, and I'm so sorry that I did that to you. That I made you feel that way.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do, bro? Like, I'm going to defend myself and wipe that memory away and change the way she perceived the situation. But like, that's not a fucking
you can't
reality.
Explain it away. It's.
And also, I think there's an element of like responsibility, bro. Like, I don't want to make that go away.
Right.
I want to take ownership, bro. Like, that sucks, man. And I can't believe I did that. Like, that's really fucking, that's awful, man. And I'm sure that was hurtful. Like, how did that make you feel, right? Like, if anything, I want to talk about the situation and try to like make amends instead of just trying to wash it away and be like, oh, you overreacted, or like, oh, that never happened. Like, if anything, I want to show her that I'm actually like changing. You know what I'm saying? Because young ladies, bro, they're sensitive. You know what I mean? And if it's important to her, or if it affected her in that way, like, if I just dismiss that or make it seem like it's unimportant, or she's embellishing it or whatever, like, what are the chances she's going to talk about her emotions with me again in the future?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's embarrassing, bro. That's embarrassing that my child viewed me as somebody who overreacted or who was like tyrannical in my response, or was so upset and mad that she didn't feel comfortable, like, fuck, bro, that breaks me, bro. Like, I'm supposed to be the person that provides safety and security and an environment of warmth and understanding. And instead, based off my response, I made her feel scared or intimidated or upset or, like inadequate, like, fuck, I can't believe you did this.
Yeah.
Like, that's shitty for a little girl. You know what I mean? Like, a grown-ass man intimidating a little girl. And again, like, maybe I'm just beating myself up. Maybe it wasn't that dramatic. But based off of what she's told me, bro, I'm riddled with guilt, bro. I feel awful about that because I never want to be that guy in my daughter's eyes. I never want to make my shorties feel that way.
Yeah.
And I know that I've been that dude that has a short temper that, like, raises my voice or, like, makes the girls feel like their dirty room is the end of the world, because it's like such an annoyance or something like that. But like, bro, they're kids, man.
Yeah, Macy dropped her markers the other day. She picked up a box and the bottom came out and the markers just fell down. And she goes, "Oh, sorry, Daddy." And I'm like, "Damn it, you don't have to be sorry, baby girl. Like, accidents happen. You didn't do that on purpose. I see you, And it makes me think, like, I know that I am not the most patient person. And Leah has had to tell me, like, hey, this is new to her. She doesn't look at things logically like you do. I'm sometimes I can be pretty black and white.
Oh, no shit. That's crazy. Yeah.
Like,
she doesn't act as logically as you. I'm like, interesting.
Yeah. No. And, like, I have a certain way to do things. And so, like, I try to teach her that, like, hey, does it make sense for you to wipe your nose and walk all the way to the trash can and then go all the way back and grab another Kleenex? Like I try to, because she's had a runny nose for the past couple of weeks. Or, she'll just hold up the Kleenex and be like, "What do you go put that in the trash? I don't want it,"
Yeah.
But I try to think about the fact that, for us, we've thought about everything, 100 times, 1,000 times, depending on the situation, right? And everything is just new for her, She's never had a cold in her life where she could just grab a Kleenex and wipe her nose. That's never been a part of her life, So I'm like, come on, I've wiped your nose 1,000 times. Like, you know how this works. But it's so hard for me to be patient with her, let alone with Leah sometimes, because Leah's got baby brain right now. She'll pick something up and then set it down, and then she'll be like, "Where did I put that thing?" And I'm like, "Babe, it's in your fucking hand. Like, let's go. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're holding it. You're holding
the glass
it.
is on my face, but I can't see. Like,
Yeah.
put them down.
You know, like, let's go. Or she'll get in the car and I'll like start to walk around and she'll be like, can you shut my door? I'm like, babe, why don't you say that when I was over there buckling Macy in? Like, you know, like, yes, of course, I got your door. You know, don't ever worry about that. But it's hard to be patient until you try and think like, oh, this is their first time doing this. And you have to be, you know, when you hear them say something like, oh, I'm sorry, daddy, it's simultaneously like the cutest thing you've ever heard, but then like the most heartbreaking thing, because like, yo, did I get mad at you at some point in time because you dropped something? Because I feel like I wouldn't, you know? And I know I've been impatient, like, hey, just drink out of this cup, all right? I'm not going to get you a purple cup. You've already got this cup. I already put the milk in it, you know, like, just do it, you know?
If I could do things differently, probably my single biggest regret is not being more patient and not giving my children the space to make mistakes comfortably and learn from them without me like jumping to conclusions and having a temper. It's embarrassing, bro. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is, like, you know, I don't want to wait until I'm fucking old and on my deathbed and my kids, you know, are adults with their own kids and they're like, yo, when you did this when I was growing up, you always like scared me or intimidated me or made me feel this way or like made me not feel loved. Because, bro, if I'm aware of it and they're still young and I know I can change it, why would I not capture that opportunity right here, right now, real time, and communicate with them and own the behaviors and apologize for the behaviors and show them through my actions that I want to be this pillar of confidence and security and strength for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's...
And it's tough not to let them just make the mistake. You know what I mean? You know, spill paint or something like that, or, you know, get something dirty, you know, because they can't learn from your mistakes. It's like you want to learn from your own mistakes and be more patient, but they're not going to learn from your mistakes because you can't explain things to them. They have to experience it, and it's tough letting them just you know, go down the slide by themselves. Like, hey, you got to put your feet in front of you, you know, like describe everything like
ping ponging down the slide. Like,
yeah, you know, it's like, hey, you can jump right there. It's only like 12 inches. You can jump off of that. I promise. Okay. Bend your legs when you land, you know,
yeah,
like
a stiff leg.
you know, you have to let them make the mistakes. And I feel like with Leah, I don't want to say she's a helicopter parent because we both kind of do hover sometimes, you know, because you know when your child's going to fall down.
Oh, yeah, bro.
You know, you don't want them to like hit their face, right? If they fall on their ass or they hurt their elbow or some shit, like, yeah, well, they got to learn what it's like to have a stiff elbow, you know? Like, what'd you learn, you know? But, you know, I'm more ready to let Macy, you know, fall off the first step, you know, or jump off the second step. Whereas Leah's like, Jesus, you know, like, be careful. All right, she's gonna break her arm. I'm like, no, she's not gonna break her arm yet. She's still made of rubber, you know. Like she'll learn, you know, that jumping off that step is not too high, and she'll learn how to bend her knees, hopefully, and you know, catch herself with her hands instead of her face on the ground, you know. But
all it takes is one, man.
Yeah,
yeah. You use the face as a you know, as a buffer, and man, you probably won't do it again.
Yeah, and I mean, she might see another kid fall and be like, okay, I don't want to do what that kid just did, and she might be overly cautious. But I mean, you know, if you tell her that like a kid fell and hurt his face, she's not going to learn anything from that. You know, she has to either learn for herself or, you know, see it happen real close.
Yeah, I think there's been quite a few, you know, accidents of people falling on tailbones and, you know, letting shit slide out from under them, or, you know, the bike handlebars going into the belly and, you know, falling over and tearing up the leg and stuff. I mean, dude, it's part of growing up.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's... I think once you watch your child go through a couple different things that you think could potentially be life-threatening, and you realize they're just things that happen to people, and they've happened to you and they've happened to me, that you realize like children are pretty resilient, and if you give them the room to grow, they're gonna grow. Yeah, they're gonna do it.
And on the other side of that, it's like, you know how you've had, say, like heartbreak with like young breakups and stuff like that, and you know you've got a daughter that's dating. I can't even
she went
imagine.
Through it. She went through it,
right?
Homeboy did her dirty.
And oh, really?
Yeah.
And so my question for you is, I'm imagining somebody like pushing Macy. How am I going to prevent myself from drop kicking a 10-year-old boy or some other girl that like knocks her over, or like punching their parent that's just like, okay, you know, like not taking it seriously. How do you control that kind of thing?
Depending on the severity of the situation, you look for the dad to fight.
Yeah.
You got to fight somebody. So
Yeah.
fucking, where's your dad? No, but in all honesty, like I removed Shorty from the situation. You're not going to convince another parent to parent their fucking kid the way that you do.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same way, like you don't discuss politics with somebody once it starts getting heated, because you're not going to change the way they view politics or religion or anything like that. Right. You're talking about something so special and dear to the heart, like parenting. Bro, the only thing you can do is kind of remove your kid so that they're not even in that situation anymore, and then coach and talk to them on the back end, man. Like, dude, I went through a situation with my daughter where she was like questioning her own like self-value and beauty and why someone would fuck her over and do her dirty and, you know, treat her the way that she was treated, bro. Like you've been heartbroken, right? Like most adults have been there, right? And there's nothing that can pull you out of that except time.
Yeah.
Right? Like time is the only healer.
It really is.
Dude, and there's nothing I can do or say. I could tell her she's so beautiful, bro. My kids are gorgeous, bro. Like the blessing and the curse, right? Like they're so beautiful and they have such amazing personalities, bro. Like they are really cool kids. Like they're amazing young ladies. Yeah. And so how do I tell that to them so that they can just say, okay, perfect. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Like now I'm back at it. Bro, it doesn't work that way. She self-reflects and she's like, what could I have done differently? Why doesn't he love me? Like, why would he do this? Why is this other girl better than me?
Have you seen that boy since?
No.
That's probably best, huh?
Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. Like,
not like you'd rough him up or anything, but it's like you'd have some choice words, I'm sure.
Maybe. I mean, I told the kid, I was like, yo, I'll do everything I can to keep my daughter away from you moving forward. Because seeing you will reopen that wound for her. It won't let her move forward with closure. And social media is kind of fucked that way in the sense that, like, if you're looking to see what homeboy's doing, like, you're going to see. Yeah. You know? And the last thing you want to know is if that person's doing well without you, right? Like, you kind of want to see him, like, you know, sleeping on a sidewalk and, you know, drinking their life away. But the reality is, man, like, I don't hate that kid. I always liked him. He was a good fucking kid. He was just a kid.
Well, yeah, he's young.
He was just a kid. You know what I'm saying?
It's almost like you have to remember how you were when you were 16.
But the thing is, and it had nothing to do with my daughter.
Yeah.
Like, she dodged a bullet. You know what I mean? Because now she gets to continue to learn and grow. But like, bro, I'm watching her like evolve into a woman who's going through experiences of heartbreak, of breaking with the cars, of, you know, experimenting with drugs or whatever. Like, bro, that shit it's on my front door. You know what I mean? Like, dude, 16, how old were you when you were having sex? You know what I'm saying? Like, all that stuff's right around the corner for you know, for a lot of those kids in that age. So I have to start thinking realistically and responsibly, and the conversations that I have with my kids, they got to be honest and direct, man. And I can't just sit here and say, you know, I never want you to have sex, and I never want you to date, and I never want this and that and the other thing, because kids ain't going to do any of that shit that you like want them to do.
Yeah.
Right? Hopefully they listen, they learn, they take those teachings, they take them to heart, they apply them. You know, my biggest fear is them being around other kids who are trying to influence them when I'm not there to say, hey, don't. You know, thankfully, they have a good moral compass, and I feel like they all make good choices. But how do you confidently let your child go do their thing independently without you being there to say, hey, remember what I taught you, right?
See, I haven't a fucking clue yet. And I mean, you know, this girl's 4 and I'm already worried about her, you know, driving, you know, like not seeing a car coming behind a car that's making a right-hand turn. And so she goes, you know, like a boy being rude to her, even not even just like breaking her heart, but like being rude. Yeah. Or girls being mean, you know, girls and stuff like that. Yeah, girls are really, the dynamic between friendships is completely different than I recall it being with girls than, you know, growing up with like a bunch of boys. It's just more, you know, inconsistent. There's more like, yo, you're not my friend anymore. Yeah. You know, and that's tough, man. That's tough because the girls they self-reflect, right? Like they think it's them, and it's not. It's just the way that the world works. So for me, man, my approach is always dude, I really try to listen, bro. Like straight up, I try to listen because I can't solve all their problems. But I learned something from my homeboy, Nate. Shout out to you, Nate Dogg, if you're watching this shit, bro, because for real, you spit some game and it sat with me, is that when my children or my spouse come to me and they say, hey, I got this going on,
I approach it with the mind state of, are they looking for me to try to solve this for them? Or are they just looking for someone to listen? Because if I try to solve something that they just want someone to listen, I'm just going to piss them off. Because I'm throwing all these ideas at them. They're like, yo, dude, like, that's not what I'm fucking asking for.
So you just straight up ask, or do you just?
Dude, I've asked a couple times, like, yo, are you looking for me to help find a solution, or do you just want to vent a little bit? And they'll be honest, because maybe they don't want your opinion, right? If I try to like insert my opinion, maybe they don't feel heard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe they don't feel like their emotions are being validated right now. They just want to vent, bro. And that's where I step in as a support role. And I'm like, yo, I got you. And so I listen a lot, you know, and I try to understand, because, bro, most people want to be understood, right? That's why people are defensive, right? Like, yo, but you're not listening.
Yeah.
You know, like, what did I say? You know, right? Like, people get defensive because they want their point to be heard. They want their point to be validated. And in my experience, listening is going to give you a better understanding of how your children or your spouse function and operate and need to be validated and heard. And I think it's my responsibility to provide that, you know, that place of zen for them and say, yo, you can get that from me.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I just went off on a tangent, but I guess to circle back, like, you know, all the way to when people are disruptive, rude, aggressive, or anything to my kids, man, in most cases, bro, I just
Remove
dip.
yourself.
Yeah,
and
I
your
just
little
get
one
up
from
out
the
of there, and I'm like,
situation.
yo, man, like, I already know how that's going to turn out. Like, what's going to happen if you confront the parents?
Right.
Most parents aren't going to be like, oh, that sounds reasonable. Let me discipline my kid because your kid didn't think they shared, you know, appropriately or whatever the case may be. And everybody parents different these days, man. Is it, you know, fucking, you know, gentle parenting or helicopter parenting or this militant approach or whatever? Like, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you guys do what works for you and your family, and like, that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because like, I think we all parent different. You know what I mean? Every kid's different. Every parent is different. Every approach to a situation is different. And bro, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're all trying to figure it out, right? Like, what I'm trying to do is not be the topic of a you know, therapy session later on in life and like, yo, my dad destroyed me.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll never be able to do this because my dad stripped me of that. Like, dude, and I know I have to make up for some shit, you know? I know that I have to like apologize and make amends to my two youngest, man, because of my lack of patience. And I'm working on that, man. I actively work on that. But I want to be a better parent, bro, I guess is what it is.
It's funny because you say, you know, unapologetic, right? But at the same time, you have to learn how to apologize.
Oh, for sure.
Because I'll say this, that one of the main things that I took away from you before Macy was even born was when I first met your little ones, and you brought them all in line, you know, before we opened up. And I was just talking about this. You know, you came in, and at first I was just like, whoa, miniature Owens, crazy, you know, because this was like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
This is a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, how you doing? And I said, hi. And you know, one of them was like maybe a little shy and like looked down or hid behind your leg, and you're like, yo, mind your fucking manners, you know? And I was like, damn, dog, you don't even censor your, you know, language. And that's been something that Leah and I have done with Macy, is that we've never talked to her like a baby.
Yeah.
Because if we ever do, it's almost like we're not making fun of her, but like playing with her, you know? And she's like, why are you talking like that? Like, she talks to us just like a little human, you know, should. And if we go, ooh, you know, you little baby talk shit, you know, she thinks that it's funny. It's a fun and games thing, because we don't ever talk to her like that. You know, we just, and you know, when I explain things, I over explain things, and I might even use words she doesn't understand, you know, like that's not the result you want, you know, like she doesn't know what result means, you know, but
it'll spark an interest. She might understand the context, and at some point she might say,
yeah, but she's at that age where she asks questions, you know, like, what does that mean, or why, you know, the why stage. But I mean, she'll say things like, what does that mean? And, you know, we've just tried to always talk to her like a human and not like a little baby or a little play toy or anything like that. And for me, I mean, it's the same thing with my career. You know, I don't have a different voice when I talk to a guest at my restaurant, you know, than I do when I'm just sitting here talking to you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Consistency is key, man.
And it's the same that I talk to Leah. It's the same that I talk to Macy. It's the same that I talk to my mom, you know?
Yeah.
Or, you know, a guest in my restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, just, you know, they ask me a question, I answer it just like this. But that's something that like it's something that I thought about as I was growing up, but it's something that you like personified when I met your little ones, you know?
I think it's important to me because I don't view my children as like, oh, I'm raising kids, right? Like I have these little babies, right? Like I'm responsible for them and I'm raising young ladies. And so that's how I treat them. And that's how I want to speak to them. And I want them to know the real me. I don't want them to have like this alternative dad that behaves like this around his friends and work, and then behaves like this around his family and stuff. Like they never get a chance to really know the real me because, I'm ultra soft and reserved around them or something. I'm consistent, bro. Like I feel like that's key. And I feel like that's going to help them build confidence too, because they can be themselves and not be met with judgment or anything like that around me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I hope, that translates, because, I told you about the experience I had with Keratin where, they were all sitting there and getting some food and they're like, what should I get? And I'm like, be careful with the dessert. Otherwise you're going to end up looking like me, like kind of just self-deprecating joke about, how fat I am. And she literally said, there's nothing wrong with the way you look. And I was just like, oh, damn. Like there's like a little piece of my heart was just like, God, these are the good ones, and I hope that when I ever have kids or when I have a daughter or, whatever, that they come out as well adjusted as your kids. It's always been like your kids and the way that your style has always been like, I don't want to say role model, but sort of, an influence.
Yeah, that's what's up, man.
And like,
thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
And I know certain things are always hard, and, there's always fights and, regrets and but hopefully they're always learning experiences. Like you say, you have to grow and evolve and, remember, you might not know your wife's favorite color anymore because she's changed, even something little like that. But
yeah, I think with, just to tap in on the unapologetic yet apologizing, I like to view it as like ownership, bro. Like I display ownership, you know what I mean? Like I want to take accountability for my actions. I want the girls to take accountability. I want them to understand that and that value and how to apply it. And the fact is, like, we grew up in a generation where a lot of parents are like, yo, because I said so. Yeah. Right? It's while you're under my roof, these are the rules, And so I think there was a lot of, you didn't really question adults. Right. They weren't fucking wrong. If adults said something, you just did it. You just kind of like got in line. It was because adults were the bosses and you just kind of did what they said, because if you didn't, then you were back talking and you might, catch a belt or something, you know what I mean? So like things were they just were different. And though I think there's an approach to the respect you need to give to an adult, adults earn respect the same way the kids do. You know what I mean? Like you need to earn that respect. You're not just guaranteed respect because you're a grown up, bro. There's a lot of grown-ups out there that act like kids, and a lot of kids out there that act like grown-ups. Yeah. So I think one thing that's important for me is that I don't emulate those, because I said so approach to being a grown-up. I want to be like, yo, I'm not perfect, man, and I make mistakes, and I'm man enough and responsible enough to say, hey, I fucked up. How can I make this right? Because I don't want them to ever just think that like an adult is right because of their age or because of, their position or their authority or whatever. I want them to approach each situation like, hey, man, this person exemplifies good values and morals and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So,
and raising a little girl, a lot of times, we're learning with them.
Oh, for sure.
I don't fucking know. I got
for sure
5 brothers, that I was around, but I mean, they did things very different,
Yeah, man.
So it's, I mean, I'm learning with Leah and with Macy as it happens sometimes,
Yeah,
it's,
that's some definite hands-on learning, bro. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I remember changing diapers for the first time, bro. That was alarming.
Did you not have siblings or anything like that? Or?
I had an older brother, but I never changed.
Oh, older brother, yeah. Nah, that'd be weird, right?
But for the record, like if something happened and he had diapers, bro, that's my brother. I'd change his fucking diaper. I got his back, bro. Yeah. That's the homie right there. So
that was a new thing for you when you had to change your daughter's diaper,
bro. Okay, so I've talked about this to a couple different dads, and a lot of them are like, bro, like preach, like that's some real ass shit. It's a different anatomy, man. I never had girls around in my family, like anything like that. Like if it was a little boy with the same anatomy, no problem, man. Like I know what to do. Like, clean the dick, wipe the balls. Like I know how to like, lift it up, get under there. Like
for sure.
It's my anatomy. Like I know what to do. A little girl is just different. Right. And so immediately I'm like, yo, she's delicate. She's, this is like a little girl. It's like a little flower. You have to be like gentle. And so I take off the diaper and I'm like, okay, that's like already it's different. You know what I mean? And then, baby shits, bro. It turns from that
all over the
that
place.
weird black tar.
Yeah.
Right. Remember the first couple ones that are like
Yeah.
this weird, like Laffy Taffy texture?
Yeah. So like the green, just
Bro. Yeah. So like
yellow.
there's the evolution of shit. But then eventually it's like, dude, it's formula shits or breast milk shits that are like
everything.
explosive. And so my responsibility is to clean this child up.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm like, man, I don't want to be like creepy or like inappropriate. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do because bro is like everywhere, And so trying to navigate that, man, there's definitely an element of like, yo, I'm embarrassed as shit because I don't know what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I feel hella uncomfortable right now. And it took quite a few diaper changes before my wife was like, yo, you're doing good. Or like, and she'd give me feedback and shit. Like I was on a test. She's like, bro, are you serious? Like, you're going to give her a diaper rash, man. Like, you got to get in there. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I'll do better. But, that stuff those are real ass parenting moments, right? Where I'm like, man, I have a responsibility here, but I have to face, whatever my discomfort is and find a way to, initiate this responsibility without freaking myself out, And the kid's just like sitting there staring at you and shit. I'm like, bro. Like stop looking at me. Here's a little like toy or something,
I'll tell you this, being the oldest brother of, and having 5 younger brothers, I was always the built-in babysitter.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I was 12 years old when the twins were born. I mean, I was up in there just changing diapers. It was, so when Macy was born, Leah was like, you just seem instantly comfortable changing diapers. And I was like, I've done this for years, literally years. And yeah, the anatomy is different, but it's so, non-sexual and essential, to make sure that your child is going to be clean.
Yeah.
That, obviously Leah had tips for me when it came to the big messes, like, yo, how do can I just like get up in there? Like she's got shit, like that has to come out.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, just fold, wipe it. And, I'm like, all right, and always wipe away. And, you learn the shit like right away because you have to.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's your baby and you are responsible for not killing it. And, and I was really comfortable, with how, diapers fit and changing diapers. But Macy, every time we would take her diaper off, she would pee. Just, and I was like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, dude.
Like, it got to the point where, and this never happened with my brothers, but we would take off the diaper, and then we would hold it back for a second, and then we would put it back on, and we would just wait, and we'd look, and sure enough, she would start peeing after, the air got in there or some shit.
Probably like, I'm free.
Yeah.
I'm free, so I'm going to handle
she would
that.
just let it go.
Yeah.
And to this day, she will never pee and poop at the same time. She's over 4.
Shit, you get to be our age. Sometimes it happens without you wanting it to,
Simultaneously, yeah.
Bro.
Yeah, I'll go in there to take a piss, and I'll just sit down and be like, I'll shit eventually. Be on my phone, But I mean, she'll go potty, and I'll be like, babe, do you need to poop? Like, because I need to poop. And every time I go poop, you come in there, and you're like, I need to go poop. And I'm like, damn it, girl. Like, But yeah, at diapers, seeing that newborn shit was very different for me because I don't think I got to see that with the twins or Marshall. But I was always real comfortable with that. But we definitely learned a lot on the way, like where to set up and having like a diaper changing station that's elevated so you can stand.
Yeah.
Was like
I threw my back out
changer.
changing a diaper, dude, for sure.
Yeah.
And my wife, she was like, oh, it must have been a heavy diaper. I'm like, bro, it's the angle. I was like, like hunched over and I stood up too quick. I'm like, oh, my God, that just locked up.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I mean, by the end of it, dude, like a couple years in, bro, I was a G, Like I got the diaper bag, I got everything. I'm heading into this spot and that spot, and I already know how to get down, bro. Like that ain't nothing. No. So I guess eventually it all comes into play, man, and you find your way. You fight the discomfort. You find a way to make sense of the madness and the mayhem, and just start parenting. Right. Having a second one, man, is magic.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I hope
I'm
that
super excited now.
I hope that your daughter Macy is overwhelmed with joy and realizes that she's got like a new companion, a new friend, and she's excited, man, you guys can delegate, some cool tasks and help her get the diaper bag ready and stuff like that, and doing some feedings and stuff will be really, really fun ways to like get her incorporated into.
I really hope so. I know, I talk to people all the time like, well, what, if you don't mind my asking, what's the age gap between your daughters, and people are like, oh, this and this. And I'm like, oh, how about you and your sister? Like, what was the age gap? Oh, we hated each other, but now we're best friends. She lives 7 minutes down the road, that kind of thing. And I'm like, man, I just hope for the best. You always hope that your little one's just going to take the best qualities of you and the best qualities of mom. Hopefully my little one will do better in school than I did. And, but also think logically like I do, which
clearly,
and doesn't, but you never know. You never know what's going to happen. You never think you're going to be, 44 years old and talking about changing diapers and whether you should wipe, on camera. So things change,
Facts, man. I have no doubt you'll be an excellent father. Round 2. I'm excited for you, bro. That's going to be huge. And obviously, I know you outside of the studio, so I'll be in close contact with you, bro. Every step of the way. Thank you so much for coming out, bro. I appreciate it, man. We're gonna wrap it up, man. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but there's endless conversation that we could have about expecting, about the expansion of family, about having more children, about the fears, and the optimistic approach to this is gonna work out just fine, man. But I appreciate you, bro. I'll definitely give it a little bit of time. Let you get a couple months under your belt, and then we'll bring you back on the show, man, and get an idea for like all the stuff that we talked about here, and how it ended up, evolving and coming to fruition, man.
That'd be really cool. Thanks for having me on, man. It was fun.
Awesome. Appreciate it, bro. To everybody out there, all you listeners and watchers, thanks so much for tuning in again. Appreciate you. You know what to do. Check us out. Like, subscribe, share it with a friend, tell a dad, tell a mom, tell a kid. Until next time, keep it real. Thank you for joining us on the Dope Dad Podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to share it with a friend. You can support the show by giving a like, sharing, and subscribing, and you can find us on YouTube or wherever you're getting your podcast fix. If there's content you'd like to hear more of, please leave a comment. We'll make sure we try to get it in the show. Continue to tune in for more dope guests and real conversation.